If you're a coach looking to increase the quality of your practice or simply trying to introduce some structure into it, this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to be going through the three-step process better known as the Plan, Do, Review framework. Let's dive straight into it. So, step one, the planning process. In the planning process, we have two main things. The first and very obvious, and something that most coaches typically seem to recognize, is we need some form of goals. Now, this goal will work across both the individual level and the team level. And then we obviously need to also understand what practice looks like. And when we talk about practice, we're looking at things like what type of practice. So whether we're working anywhere between solo queues, we're using scrim time, are we doing some form of small-sided, more reduced number kind of practice? We also need to look at how much time we need. What is the structuring of the time? Do we need a presentation? Do we need time for a presentation? How long do we want to spend on it? If we're in if we're in a team where we only practice three games in a scrim block, do we need multiple scrim blocks to achieve this? And then also what resources we need. How many coaches we need there? Do we need to bring in someone external, like a psychologist or performance coach, to help introduce some of the ideas? These are all things that we need to really consider. The planning process isn't to say like we need it to be perfect, but we just need some sort of general direction that signposts to ourselves and maybe even our team what quality practice looks like and what are the general outcomes that we want to try and achieve. So then we move into step two, the doing part of practice. This is typically the most fun part, but as a coach, we also have, in my opinion, two key responsibilities that is informed by one key behavior. Now, the behavior I'm talking about is observation. Now we need to be very good at watching how practice unfolds, what's going on in it, and how we can then adjust what we're doing to ensure that we're getting the most value out of the time put in. Now we then, after our observation, we then can do two things, and we typically tend to do both of these two things. We provide some feedback to our players, and we adjust the difficulty of the task. So let's look at feedback first. So something that's really important with feedback is the use of language and what we might do with that language. So we might ask our players a lot of questions, we might give them praise, we might give them criticism. All of these have significant impact on what we call the benefits of that practice session. So when we use these different languages, what we're doing is we might be checking for understanding, we might be developing that understanding, but also when we praise or criticize, we might also influence the effort and engagement our team or the players might have in the next time they go to practice or in the next time they try to use their skills. Secondly, we also look at adjusting the task difficulty, and this is done by two ways. If we observe that the practice we are trying to set up is too hard, our recommendation is to apply scaffolding behaviors, and this is ways to make the task more easily accessible. And typically, this is by giving players general guidelines on what we're trying to get them to do, what is the intention of the task, what does good behavior look like. But it could also be giving them tools that they're more familiar with so that they can be more consistent in the way they perform. On the other hand, if the task is too easy, we might scale the practice. And scaling practice is the best way to explain this is by getting them to stretch the challenge. So, for example, using a session intention such as objective control or dragon control, we might stretch the challenge by saying, in the next game, you guys are very good at being there first. I want you guys to be able to go 3-0 in the dragon count and be on soul points before the enemy team. This could give them incentives to be more clinical, more execution focused, and this can also create a sense of competition within the team that they're trying to achieve. All of these things can help get crucial engagement, which is really important for their learning process. And lastly, the last step is the review process. Now, reviewing in this context doesn't mean reviewing with the players on how the game went, but it's more so about reviewing how the practice went generally as a once you're away from your players. And by all means, please do collect some data from the players because ultimately you're trying to create the best environments for them. But what you're essentially trying to answer is, did we achieve the goals? And what you might look is what supported the learning. So what went well in training? Did the way we set up the training environment? Were we able to review the games effectively? Were we able to, were the players able to interact with the goals and try and get more information on how to achieve them? What could have gone better? That's always a really good thing to understand, because we can then, once we know what could have gone better, we can start working towards creating bridges so that those things appear more often in our training environment. And then the last thing is, it's really good to understand what limited our progress so we can minimize the occurrence of these things. Now, using this plan, do, review process, what we as coaches then end up engaging with is a very well-rounded way of understanding what do we need to do in practice, how are we going to do it, is it working? And this cyclical process will help us continuously get better as the season progresses and create more fit for purpose environments for our players. Thank you for this. Thank you for tuning in to this episode today. And as always, there'll be all our social media links in the description. And hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be releasing some templates to help you coaches be more interactive with this plan, do, review process. Thank you, guys.